They say the loudest voice you'll ever hear isn't the one coming from the world. It's the one echoing inside your own head. And for most of us, that voice doesn't whisper encouragement. It whispers doubt. You're not ready. You're not good enough. You'll fail again, just like last time. Maybe you felt it before, standing in front of an opportunity that could change everything, your heart racing, your mind full of reasons why you should step back instead of forward. I remember a time when I almost walked away from something I had worked for years to reach. Not because I lacked the skill, but because I had convinced myself I didn't deserve to win. That's the trap of self-doubt. It doesn't strike all at once. It's not a single storm that passes through your life. It's a quiet erosion, a slow drip that wears down your confidence until the safe choice becomes the only choice. And just like any other bad habit, it grows stronger the more you feed it. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. They knew that the mind, left undisciplined, becomes its own worst enemy. They believed that our thoughts, not our circumstances, shape our lives. Marcus Aurelius didn't just wake up confident every morning. He trained his mind to reject the lies that fear told him. Epictetus reminded his students that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. And self-doubt is just that. A view, a perspective, not a truth. In this video, we're going to tear down the walls that self-doubt has built around your potential. We'll see how it disguises itself as caution, how it pretends to be realism, and how it convinces you to sabotage your own path before you've even taken the first step. And then we'll replace it, brick by brick, with a Stoic mindset that turns fear into fuel, hesitation into clarity, and bad habits into disciplined action. Because self-doubt isn't just a feeling, it's a habit. And like all bad habits, it can be broken. Self-doubt doesn't announce itself with sirens. It slips in quietly, disguised as humility, as caution, as just being realistic. It tells you to wait for the perfect moment, a moment that never comes. And while you wait, opportunities expire, doors close, and momentum dies. The cost of self-doubt isn't measured in the times you failed. It's measured in the times you never even tried. Think about it. How many ideas have you buried because you thought they weren't good enough? How many conversations could have changed your career or your relationships, but you kept silent because you feared rejection? How many chances at growth did you trade for the false safety of staying the same? The Stoics would call this the greatest tragedy, to let fear rob you of the life you could have lived. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Yet most of us live as if we have infinite tomorrows, wasting today in hesitation. Self-doubt is expensive in ways money can't measure. It erodes your confidence until even small decisions feel heavy. It keeps you in jobs you've outgrown, relationships that drain you, and routines that make you smaller instead of stronger. It convinces you to watch from the sidelines while others with less talent, less skill, and less preparation move ahead, simply because they dared to act. And here's the cruel irony. The longer you live in self-doubt, the more it feels like truth. You start mistaking your hesitation for who you are, when in reality it's just a pattern you've practiced. The Stoics saw life as a brief spark, and to waste it in the paralysis of doubt was not only foolish, it was a moral failing. Every day you let self-doubt decide for you is a day you've handed over your freedom. And the worst part? You'll never know the full price you've paid because you'll never see the life you could have had. The Stoics understood self-doubt not as a mysterious curse, but as a failure to see reality clearly. To them, the mind is like a garden. If you don't tend it, weeds of fear, insecurity, and hesitation will take over. Epictetus taught that what disturbs us is not events themselves, but our judgments about them. Self-doubt is simply a judgment, and like any judgment, it can be questioned, tested, and replaced. The Stoics didn't waste energy on fantasies about what could go wrong. They faced the worst-case scenario head-on, and once they saw it clearly, they stripped it of its power. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and self-doubt thrives in that gap between what's real and what we imagine. When you hesitate because you fear rejection, you're living in a future that hasn't happened yet, sacrificing the present for a shadow. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. To the Stoics, this wasn't motivational fluff. It was a practical command. It meant that if self-doubt was in your way, you didn't wait for courage to magically appear. You acted and courage followed. They practiced premeditation malform, imagining the obstacles ahead, not to scare themselves, but to prepare. If you've already faced rejection in your mind, the real thing can't break you. If you've accepted that you might fail, you've freed yourself to try. For the Stoics, the question was never, can I do this? But is this worth doing? And if the answer was yes, hesitation was not an option. They saw time as a non-renewable currency and self-doubt as a thief that steals it quietly, transaction by transaction. In their world, every moment you spent second-guessing was a moment you weren't living. By anchoring yourself in what you can control, your effort, your attitude, your choices, you make self-doubt irrelevant. The Stoic path wasn't about eliminating fear. It was about refusing to obey it. The first Stoic practice for overcoming self-doubt is the daily examination of thoughts. Every night before the noise of the world fades into sleep, take a few minutes to review your day, not in a haze of judgment, but in the spirit of an accountant closing the books. Marcus Aurelius did this in his meditations. He would write not for anyone else, but for himself, tracing the threads of his decisions, asking, where did I act in line with my principles? Where did I let fear dictate my choice? By doing this consistently, you start to see the patterns, the situations that trigger hesitation, the voices in your head that whisper you're not ready. Once they're on paper, they lose their shadowy power. They become tangible, and tangible things can be worked on. The second practice is voluntary discomfort. Epictetus taught that we weaken ourselves when we seek only comfort, because comfort never tests our courage. If self-doubt comes from fearing failure or embarrassment, then deliberately put yourself in situations where those outcomes are possible. Wear an old shirt to a place where everyone dresses up. Ask a stranger for directions when you already know the way. Speak up in a meeting with an idea that isn't fully polished. These moments train you to survive the worst. And when you survive, you realize the worst wasn't so bad. Over time, your brain rewires itself to see action as less dangerous than inaction. The third practice is the dichotomy of control applied to action. This is the Stoics' most famous mental tool, but here's how it directly destroys self-doubt. Before making a decision, divide the situation into two columns in your mind, what you can control and what you can't. You can control your preparation, your effort, your integrity. You cannot control how others will react, whether they'll praise you or whether they'll say yes. Once you've done your part, the outcome is no longer yours to carry. This isn't an excuse to stop caring. It's permission to act without being chained to the result. Imagine you're about to pitch a business idea, but your mind is flooded with thoughts. What if they don't like it? What if I look foolish? Apply the dichotomy. The pitch itself is within your control. Their opinion is not. So you do your best, you present with clarity, and you let the rest go. The Stoics believed that living this way turns every decision into a win, because success is measured by your alignment with virtue, not by applause. An example of this transformation can be seen in Julia, a young entrepreneur who was paralyzed by self-doubt when starting her company. She began with the daily examination of thoughts, which revealed her deepest fear wasn't failure itself, but the judgment of people she admired. She took up voluntary discomfort by deliberately sharing her early product with brutally honest critics. She applied the dichotomy of control by focusing on improving her product and leaving investor reactions to fate. Within a year, she had not only launched but built a loyal customer base, and more importantly, she stopped needing constant reassurance. Self-doubt became background noise, not the narrator of her life. These practices are not quick fixes, they are disciplines. And like all disciplines, their power grows with repetition. The Stoics knew that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act while fear is present. By examining your thoughts, stepping into discomfort, and separating what's yours from what's not, you train yourself to live as they did, free from the tyranny of hesitation, committed to the path you believe in, and immune to the poison of doubt that keeps so many from even starting. Self-doubt will always knock on your door. The question is, will you let it in and give it a seat at your table? Or will you acknowledge it, nod politely, and keep moving forward? The Stoics understood that the greatest victories are not over armies or competitors, but over our own minds. You don't have to erase every trace of doubt to live boldly. You just have to stop letting it hold the steering wheel. Tonight, you can start with something small. Write down one decision you have been avoiding and apply the dichotomy of control to it. Or take one step into voluntary discomfort tomorrow. These aren't grand gestures. They're seeds. And if you plant them daily, they will grow into unshakable confidence. Remember Marcus Aurelius's words, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Your life is too short to be ruled by hesitation, too precious to be lived in the shadow of what if. When self-doubt whispers, "You can't," answer with action. Because the truth is, the only way to prove it wrong is to move. Start today, start now, and let the future version of you look back with gratitude that you didn't wait for permission to become who you were meant to be.